Hi friends, the atmosphere is very different now to what it was when some of us stopped the war in the forefront, tried to have a balanced position on the Ukraine war, saying we support Ukrainian right to national self-determination against Putin, but we oppose NATO's provocative actions against Russia for the last 12 years, if not more, which have finally brought this situation to a war. And people were told, don't sit with these people on the platform. Labour MPs kept running away, please take my name off. It was not good training for you guys in Gaza, the Labour Party socialist campaign group, that you capitulated so easily, because now you've had to come out again, and you can't prevent yourself from coming out because your constituents are angry. I have a confession to make. Yesterday I was rung up by, as were many Stop the War comrades, to give my views to the Times of London radio station. Since the BBC never asks me, I said to myself, why not? So I went along, and she was an ex-BBC woman who had interviewed me before, and before I went on, they showed me, thankfully, Suella Braverman's op-ed piece, which was going into the paper tomorrow. So having read that, I was in a total rage. So when she said, it was actually quite a balanced interview, and I gave why we were marching, etc., etc. But then she said, the Home Secretary calls this a hate march. Is it? I said, yes, we all hate her. If she's trying to build a new party or get the leadership, why don't she get out of the cabinet, stop talking rubbish and do what she has to do? We're not going to listen to her. Nobody I know, including half her own party, has any respect for her, and that's the only way to deal with these. Now I want to start with giving you a few facts and figures which I myself forget, so I can't blame too many other people for doing so. Because the conflict between Palestine and the United States backing Israel, US-Israel, has been going on for so long now that we tend to forget. So for some it's, and you know, that's fine, that's how it happens. And for some it's all started on October the 7th with Hamas's atrocity, as they call it. You know, it's not something I would support, but in the middle of a liberation war that has been going on now for nearly 3 decades, it's a bit difficult for us sitting here to give concrete advice on tactics. The strategy is clear. They want some form of independence or equality. Every time the Palestinians have tried non-violence, it has failed. When we tried to set up the BDS, boycott, sanctions, divestment, it was going so well that they had to stop it. So they made it illegal in parts of the states, and this wretched government has made it illegal in this country for councils or whoever under government control cannot participate in the boycott, divestment and sanctions because it was getting very successful. So you try. I backed that. I was one of the signers of the original declaration when Mustafa Barghouti sent it to me, and to many others. We said, thank God there's a way of protesting that doesn't involve violence. Let's do it. They won't let us do that. That's unacceptable. You're anti-Semitic. And we know the campaign against Corbyn, which resulted. All that is now, as the comrade from the RMT was saying, has changed a bit. There's been a huge shift. And why? because the resistance has resumed. Not in a way everyone would like, but it has resumed. And that's what it is. A resistance to try and fight for their rights. I have to be honest with you, I was getting incredibly depressed for the last few years. I said, are they going to get away with it? Is no one going to do anything? Is nothing going to ever happen? So that Netanyahu goes into the United Nations, holds up a map of Israel, which shows Gaza and the West Bank under Israeli control, and he says, this is Israel. I really was hoping something would happen. I didn't know, obviously, this is what it would be. But why did this happen on this particular day? Because it's the 50th anniversary of the 1973 war. That is why they did it. They have a historical memory. And in that war, and this is another thing, the lies that Braverman and Starmer and all these people are saying, this is the biggest killing of Jews since the Holocaust. Total nonsense. Complete and utter lie. In the 1973 war, there were 2,656 Israeli soldiers killed. 18,000 Egyptians and Syrians died. So the proportion is roughly the same as it is now at this very moment. This is rotten. Who are these civil servants who write their bloody speeches? They should do their homework or be fired. So, the other point, which I think is very important to stress, is that as early as 1967, after the Six-Day War, which the Israelis won and which led to the occupation, one disaster after the other, an advertisement appeared in the Hebrew paper, Haaretz, the liberal paper in Israel, much, much better than the New York Times or the Guardian, because they actually have 2 or 3 reporters who tell the truth and who follow the situation. And an advertisement was put in by lots of left-wing Jewish people and Arab Palestinians together, but the Jewish intellectuals were in a majority. And this is what they said. This is what the ad said on the 22nd of September 1967. Occupation entails foreign rule. Foreign rule entails resistance. Resistance entails Israeli repression. Repression entails terror and counter-terror. Holding on to the occupied territories will turn us into a nation of murderers and victims of murder. This is in 1967. How accurate this ad was. And then those who talk about the Palestinians, Hamas in particular, but the Palestinians, Muslims in general, who have no problems about killing children, etc. It sort of makes me so angry when I read this, especially coming from the Western world, who in 3 minutes flat destroyed 2 Japanese cities at the conclusion of the Second World War, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, with thousands and thousands of children, women, men dead, and suffering for years afterwards. They did that. And then they have the nerve to talk about Islam. And let me tell you, remind those of you who may have forgotten, during the sanctions against Iraq, long time ago now, just to talk about children, Madeleine Albright was appearing. She was the Secretary of State of Bill Clinton. She was appearing in an interview for CBS 60 Minutes, prime time show on mainstream US television. And the interviewer, Leslie Starr, said to her, the tragic effect of US sanctions on Iraq has been that, I quote now directly, we have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that is more children than died in Hiroshima, asked Starr. And you know, is the price worth it, Madam Albright? Albright's answer has inspired the current US response to Israel's willful slaughter of Palestinian children in Gaza. I think it's a very hard choice, Albright replied, but the price, we think, the price is worth it. That's how American imperialists think. They control the world. They run the world. If they wanted to, they could order a halt to this. 2 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, they could have stopped the siege. They could stop it tomorrow. They did so before. They did so in 1957 when Israel occupied the Gaza Strip for the first time, and Eisenhower called the Israeli Prime Minister and he said, I want you out of Gaza. Out of Gaza. And the Israelis prevaricated, and Eisenhower said, if you don't get out of Gaza, we will impose sanctions on you. He was the President of the United States. Now, some people say that things have changed. Of course they've changed. It's not just the Israel lobby, because however powerful that lobby is, the tail doesn't wag the dog. Just give me 2 minutes and then I'll finish. Stop showing
Yes!
me.
We're in next door as well.
I'll finish, I promise. But then they said, and all the evidence is there, the amount of money given by the Israeli lobby to Democrats and Republicans alike, huge amounts, that can't do it on its own. The real reason is that the American empire now genuinely believes that it can't trust its Arab allies because the citizens of these large Arab countries, you may have pocketed their governments, are Arab people after all, and who knows, one day they might get out of control. So stick on to Israel for as long as we will. That is why they hang on to Israel. I remember I was once speaking at a big rally outside the White House during the Iraq War period, and there's a huge crowd, including large numbers of Orthodox Jews, carrying banners saying, Sharon, Palestinian blood is not water, and all this. And I spoke, and people were shouting slogans against Israel, and I said, look, the lobby is a huge problem. I see in front of me tens of thousands of Arab people, young and old. Surely there are a few Arab billionaires around. Couldn't you buy 10 or 15 senators? Yeah. I said, just buy them. And when you need them, they'll ask questions in the Senate, and please should have someone to defend. The people, I said, by the way, afterwards they came and said, were you serious? I said, yeah, I was serious. So this is the situation that we confront. It's going to be a long haul. They might, as others have said, have a 3-day ceasefire in order to get the so-called, the hostages released. And I hope that the Palestinians will demand the release of all our hostages from the West Bank and from Gaza. All the people who've been imprisoned. And one very last point, which is this, and this is a long-term point. I think there's something wrong in the way in which the Judeo-side of the Second World War and the Holocaust is how people are being educated. It's very out of balance. It's almost as if there was one horrific catastrophe. Forget, there's a much larger catastrophe in the last century, which was the wiping out of 10 to 12 million Congolese Africans by Belgium. pretty horrific. No one ever mentions that or talks about it because it's not the done thing. So the Holocaust should be taught as something that shouldn't happen again, and it should be that whoever does it, whoever carries out genocide, must learn those lessons and the lessons of Nuremberg. Okay, folks, see you on Saturday.